Welcome to Build Strong Habits podcast channel. This is an audio podcast, so take your eyes off the screen, sit back, relax, and listen.
Okay, so imagine this. You're at a barbecue,
Yeah.
right? Everyone's there, and they're all talking about their amazing vacations,
Uh-huh.
their awesome jobs,
Yeah.
maybe their perfect partners.
Right.
You ever get that feeling?
Oh, yeah.
Like everybody else has it all figured out,
No,
and you're missing something.
That's that classic grass is greener syndrome, that nagging feeling
I
that
feel
we're
you.
always on the wrong side of the fence missing out.
It's so relatable, right?
Yeah, we've all been there.
So for today's deep dive, we've got some really interesting examples of this kind of grass is greener thinking.
Okay.
Everything from, wanting to live in a different country to wishing you had somebody else's job.
Yeah.
Sometimes envying other people's relationships.
It's like this built-in bias that we have that makes us think that whatever we don't have has got to be better
Yeah.
than what we do.
Like that story about the dentist,
Oh, yeah.
super successful in his own country, but convinced that not moving to the U.S. was like the worst mistake of his life.
A perfect example of romanticizing the unknown. He
Right.
was so fixated on this idea of the American dream that he was completely overlooking the great life that he already had.
And that idea of the American dream is
Yeah.
so fascinating because it's often viewed very differently from outside the U.S.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've talked to people who think that America is just paved with gold,
Mm.
but then other people see it as like this super stressful, competitive environment.
Yeah, it really is. Those perceptions shape our desires.
Right.
What looks amazing from far away could be totally different when you're actually living it.
Totally. And it reminds me of that old quote,
What's that?
"The harvest is always richer in another man's field,"
Oh, yeah.
who said that some grumpy farmer from like hundreds of years ago.
Well, it was Ovid.
Okay.
He was a Roman poet, and he wrote The Art of Love around 1 BC.
Oh, wow.
Kind of funny that there's an observation about envy
I know, right?
in a work about love.
That's pretty ironic.
It is.
But it just goes to show you, right, this whole grass is greener mindset has been bugging people for centuries.
For a really long time.
It doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon.
Nope.
I mean, think about how often we hear these things like, life is just better in Europe, or,
Oh,
if I worked in America, I'd be rich.
Yeah.
Or even traveling the world is the only way to truly live. Like, it's everywhere.
It is. And each one of those is a perfect example of how we latch on to these perfect ideas without thinking about the whole picture.
So, okay, let's break down some of these quote-unquote perfect scenarios.
Okay.
First up, Europe, right?
All right.
It's all sunshine and croissants.
Well, Europe definitely has its charm,
Right.
but that European lifestyle often comes with a pretty high price tag. Have you seen the cost of living in some of those places?
Yeah, that's true.
And let's not forget the job market can be really competitive depending on what you do.
Oh, so maybe not all sunshine and croissants then.
Maybe.
Okay, so what about that classic idea?
Yeah.
Work in America, get rich.
Oh, yeah. Is that just a myth?
Well, the American dream is a powerful idea,
Yeah.
but let's be realistic. It's a super competitive environment.
Yeah.
Success definitely isn't guaranteed,
Right.
and you have to factor in that in a lot of big cities, the cost of living is astronomical.
Yeah, it's really expensive.
Yeah, so the streets aren't paved with gold.
Okay, so maybe not instant riches in America,
Right.
but what about the allure of, like, that nomadic life?
Mm-hmm.
Traveling the world is awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty idyllic to me.
It does have a certain appeal, seeing new places, experiencing different cultures.
Right.
But think about it, traveling all the time can be exhausting.
That's true.
Then there's visas, and then trying to figure out how to make money when you're always on the move.
Right.
It's not quite as simple as it looks on Instagram.
I guess not.
Yeah.
It seems like there's always this reality check lurking behind those perfect-looking scenarios. There is, and here's the thing. Even the people who are living those lives that we envy,
Right.
they have their own struggles. We
Yeah.
just don't see them.
We're only getting the highlight reel,
Exactly.
not the whole story. Like that
Good.
story we were looking at about people in Spain,
Uh-huh.
they felt like it was a terrible place to raise kids
Yeah.
because of the cost of housing and low wages.
And that's a place that a lot of people think about moving to.
I know, it's crazy.
It really shows that this grass is greener, thinking
Yeah.
it's based on incomplete information
Right.
and our tendency to just imagine the best.
Totally. We're filling in the blanks with our own, assumptions and desires.
That's it.
Okay, so we've talked about how this whole grass is greener thing is super common and often based on, these illusions.
Right.
But why are we so quick to believe them in the first place?
That's the question.
Why are we always looking over the fence
Yeah.
and wanting something else?
Well, think about it like this. We live in a world that's constantly telling us that
Yeah.
we need to be more successful,
More attractive.
more adventurous.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Right. And that constant pressure
Yeah.
to achieve and acquire,
Uh-huh.
it can really fuel this grass is greener
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
We start to believe that if we just had that job or that house or that lifestyle,
Right.
then we'd finally be happy.
It's like we're chasing this external validation instead of like looking inside for what really matters.
Exactly. That pursuit of external validation
Mhm.
can send us down a dangerous path,
Yeah.
of comparing ourselves to other people.
And social media definitely doesn't help with that.
Oh, totally.
It's like everyone is presenting this perfect curated version of themselves,
Uh-huh.
and it makes it even harder to feel content.
It's a breeding ground for grass is greener thinking.
Totally.
We see all these images of people living these perfect lives. And it's easy to fall into that trap of, if only I had that.
Right, and we forget that everybody is fighting their own battles and facing their own challenges.
Right. We're only seeing the highlight reel,
Yeah.
not the behind the scenes stuff.
And all of that comparison can really, chip away at your self-esteem.
It can.
You start to focus on what you lack
Right.
instead of appreciating all the things that you have.
Yeah. It can really make you unhappy.
So how do we break free from this, like this cycle of comparison and just, dissatisfaction?
Yeah.
How do we learn to appreciate our own side of the fence?
Well, it starts with accepting yourself,
Okay.
recognizing that we're all unique
Yeah.
with our own strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
We have to stop trying to fit into someone else's mold
Right.
and just embrace our individuality.
Okay, I like that. But it sounds a little abstract. Like,
Right.
how do you actually put that into practice?
I think a good way to do it is to focus on defining your own values.
Okay.
What's important to you? What kind of life do you want to create,
Okay.
regardless of what you think you should want?
So instead of going after someone else's idea of success,
Yeah.
you figure out what it means to you.
Exactly. And one tool that can help you do that is not for me list.
I like that. Tell me more.
It's really simple.
Okay.
You just list out things that society might think are desirable,
Oh, okay.
but that you just don't really care about.
Oh, okay.
Things that you're willing to say no to.
Even if they seem really appealing on the surface.
That's right. It's about making a conscious choice
Uh-huh.
to opt out of things that just don't bring you joy,
Okay.
things that don't align with your values.
So you're giving yourself permission to create a life that feels authentic,
Yeah.
even if it's totally different from everyone else's.
Right. And remember, this is a personal list.
Yeah.
What one person says no to
Right. Yeah.
could be a big yes for someone else.
Right.
There's no right or wrong here.
Okay, so somebody's listening to this and they want to create their own not for me list.
Uh-huh.
Where do they even start?
You got to look inward.
Okay.
Really think about what makes you happy
Yeah.
and what drains your energy. Figure out what your core values are.
Your non-negotiables.
Exactly. You got to get clear on what's important to you.
Right.
And then make choices that show that,
Design a life that feels right for you.
yeah, not trying to squeeze yourself into some mold that doesn't fit.
Yeah, and this not for me mindset could be applied to all those grass is greener situations we were talking about.
That's right.
Explain that a little bit.
Think about that dentist we were talking about,
Yeah.
the one who was so focused on the American dream.
Right.
If he had made a not for me list, maybe he would realize that the things he liked about America, the hustle, the striving for success,
Right.
maybe those things didn't really matter to him that much.
So instead of just chasing this fantasy, he could have made a life that really felt good to him, right where he was.
Exactly.
Like grass isn't greener, it's just different.
That's it.
And that goes for all of those other things.
It does.
The allure of Europe,
Yeah.
the fantasy of, instant riches in America, the appeal of the nomadic life.
Right. We can look at all of those perfect sounding ideas
Uh-huh.
and start to see them for what they are.
It's like you're taking off those rose-colored glasses
Exactly.
and seeing things clearly. And that's a big step towards getting away from this grass is greener trap.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about how to recognize this grass is greener, thinking how to challenge those, fantasies, and then using that not for me list
Yeah.
to really figure out our values.
Right.
What else can we do to actually feel content?
Yeah.
Like, how do we make our own grass so great that we don't even notice what's on the other side?
It's a great question. We've talked a lot about how to spot and deal with that grass is greener thinking.
Right.
But how do you actually shift your focus
Oh,
from
yeah.
what you don't have to
Wow.
what you do?
It's like tending a garden.
It is.
You can't just focus on pulling the weeds.
Right. You have to nurture the plants you want to grow.
So how do we nurture contentment?
Gratitude can really help,
Okay.
Just take some time every day to appreciate the good things,
Yeah.
even the little things.
So instead of, thinking about what's missing,
Mm-hmm.
you're training your mind to see what's there.
That's it. And it doesn't mean ignoring the hard stuff,
Right.
but it's about choosing to focus on the good parts.
Right. Because even when things are tough, there's always something to be grateful for.
Exactly.
It's about where you choose to focus your attention.
Yeah. And another thing that's really important
Yeah.
is being engaged.
Okay.
When you're really into something that challenges you,
Yeah.
something that you love,
Uh-huh.
you're not as worried about what everyone else is doing.
So like finding your passions and really going after them.
Exactly. Find those things that make you feel alive.
It could be anything really.
It could.
Learning a new skill or
Yeah.
maybe taking up a creative hobby or volunteering.
It's about making your life feel meaningful,
Yeah.
no matter what other people are up to.
And when you're living a life that matches your values and your passions, you just naturally feel good.
And that rubs off on other people.
Yeah, it's like your own inner light is shining so bright,
Yes.
you don't even notice the shadows anywhere else.
That's a great way to put it.
So to wrap things up, it sounds like the plan for fighting this grass is greener thing is pretty simple. You got to know when you're falling into that trap
Yeah.
and then actually work on being content with your life.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There are going to be times when that grass is greener thinking pops up again.
Right.
But the key is to notice it
Yeah.
and then just gently bring yourself back.
Back to gratitude.
Yeah, appreciating what you have.
It's like you say, you got to water your own grass.
Exactly. And with just a little bit of effort,
Yeah.
I think we can all build a life that feels so good
Yeah.
that you don't even think about the grass on the other side.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. I've learned so much today.
Me too.
So for all of you listening out there, remember, it's your life, your journey, and you have the power to make your own grass the greenest and most beautiful it can be.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Build Strong Habits. Let us know in the comments how you feel about it and what topics you'd love to hear next. Always remember, we're here to build strong habits together.